Let's recite Al-Fatiha, please. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. As-sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد على آله الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم إلى قيامة يوم الدين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن الله. يا غريب كربلاء وزارني زيارتكم وشفاعتكم في الدنيا وفي القبر وفي الآخرة. أما بعد، يقول الله في محكم كتابه قرآنه المجيد وقول الله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ووجدك عائلا فأغنى. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to extend my condolences to the Holy Prophet and his family, khususan to the Imam of our time, Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. On the 40th day anniversary of the tragic killing and the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and the capturing and the enslavement and the humiliation of the women and the children of Ahlul Bayt, salawatullah wa salamu alayhim. Second of all, I'd like to start this majlis, the first of 5 nights, inshallah, where we will be at your service, inshallah, by praying for the salamat of this majlis and the rest of the majalis that are happening around the world, by the barakah and the presence of Sayyidat Nisa al-Alameen, Fatima al-Zahra, salamullahi alayha. Tonight, inshallah, we'll be looking at the topic of were the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam poor. You find that in the understanding of most people, there is this understanding that Imam Ali alayhi salam, as Ibn Abbas once said, is khasif al-na'al. He's the one who is, of course this is a title given to him by Rasulullah, sitting over there in the corner and he is mending sandals. Specifically the sandals of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You find that he even once told Qambar to go and buy new sandals for him because the patches needed patches on his shoes, and therefore they were not deemed worthy to be worn anymore. They're not even fixable anymore. Other times we find descriptions that, for example, after the battle of Khaybar, that Ali ibn Abi Talib comes back home to Fatimah al-Zahra and he has a loaf of bread. But this bread is so hard that he has trouble eating it, he has trouble breaking it. We find a lot of these descriptions. We find, for example, that when he goes to the supermarket, right, and he's buying clothes, he buys perhaps a less quality robe for himself and he buys a better one for his servant Qambar. And so we find this, description throughout our hadith that seems to give off this understanding that Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, as well as perhaps the rest of the Imams, are living in this state of, if not faqr, then at least maskana, where they're kind of in this position where no matter what they do, generational poverty has afflicted this family such that wherever they go, they're always having some kind of... Yes, brothers and sisters, in these next, to kind of have a new understanding, a new level of ma'rifah when it comes to Ahlul Bayt, salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'een. Specifically, starting with how exactly did Rasulullah, as well as the A'imma, as well as Fatimah al-Zahra, live, and what was their financial situation like? You see, this has a tabi'i effect. This has on the lives of people, in the sense that when people decide that they want to become religious, they feel like, oh, well, if I go and become religious, I can no longer have the life of pleasures. I can no longer, or I should no longer, have this want, this tamanni, towards having a nice, good, comfortable lifestyle. And perhaps this is also because of what we see happening, maybe with our scholars, when they go, for example, to Najaf al-Ashraf, when they go to Qum al-Muqaddasa, we find that, fine, some of them, they have the ratib, they have the stipend or the that from outside marja'iyya or the hawza. Others, however, you find that maybe they didn't come from such a wealthy family. Or maybe even if they came from a wealthy family, they don't want to stick out like a sore thumb, and so they only depend on what they get from the hawza. And so, for example, if you are single in the hawza, then perhaps you get a certain amount of money. If you are married, you get double that. If you do well in all of your examinations, then you get, from each and every single one of the teachers of Bahth al-Kharij, you get, for example, a little bit of a gift. And so we find that it's not uncommon from our teachers to tell us that while they were in Qom, for example, that maybe the times weren't the best, and the hawza, whatever free lunch or dinner they would give, that's pretty much all they would have in the day. And when it came to the day of Friday, when the hawza itself did not have so much to give, that day you find that most of these students, they would fast. And so you find maybe that you find some solace that, okay, well, at least the imams also had this type of lifestyle. Whereas no, brothers and sisters, the researchers, they have a completely different picture to offer us. They come and they bring a whole slew of ahadith, some of which we will look at tonight, that show that no, Ahlul Bayt, they were not poor at all. They had a good amount of money. They had extreme amounts of money. But what they chose to do is live in a lifestyle where they're not flaunting it, or they're not showing it off to the public, where they're not being stingy with what Allah Ta'ala has given them. So we find that it's not necessary, as some of these youngsters who might believe that once I go to the religious lifestyle, khalas, I can no longer have a nice car, I can no longer have nice clothes, I can no longer have a nice house. Whereas we find that no, this is not necessarily the case. And by the way, even if you live in a mediocre house, if you drive a mediocre car, you don't have to have a Rolls Royce. You don't have to have, for example, a $30 million mansion. You don't have to have, every single thing in your clothes is Gucci and Prada and who knows what else. But that doesn't mean you have to go and wear ripped clothes. That you have to go and wear clothes that, for example, are beaten up and they're from 15, 30 years ago, that are hand-me-downs. This is not necessarily the case. If you would like to, it's a style, it's a statement, whatever, that's one thing. But keeping up appearances, this is something that the Imams would like from us. And we'll see this in a little bit. But even if you don't want to live in such castles or nice cars yourself, what you can do is what the Imams of Ahlul Bayt did, which is have multiple houses, have multiple rides, have multiple sets of clothes. Why? Because as Imam Rida alayhi salam, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, says, let's have another two loud salawats. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He says with regards to real estate that this is something that we find from multiple of our Imams, by the way. Real estate, brothers and sisters, is not a topic that they left alone. You'll find that the Imams, multiple turuq, multiple pathways of earning, they explored and conquered them. That's why when we come to Imam Rida alayhi salam, what does he say about real estate? He says this is if you hold on to it, this investment is an investment that Allah has put blessing into like no other investment. Sometimes our youth, they come to us, right? Actually, no, they don't come to the Maulanas. They don't come looking for financial advice or investment advice. And you know what? Let me go and put this disclaimer because we're in the United States. None of this is financial advice, okay? You're on your own. Go hire some financial advisors and, don't take this from me. But if you want to take as a generality from your Imams, Bismillah, take it. And you'll find that many people within this country as well as others have made their millions and made their billions in real estate. What does Imam Sadiq alayhi salam say about real estate? He says, never sell a house unless you're going to buy with its profit a bigger one. You find this is even how the US tax code works. How many of you have heard of a 1031 exchange? How many of you, even if you're a stranger to real estate, you don't know what a 1031 exchange is, how many of you have heard of capital gains tax? Capital gains tax, even if you just dabble in stocks, you have a Robinhood account, you have a whatever, right? When you sell, you're going to be hit with something from Uncle Sam called capital gains tax. Whether you sell within a year or outside of a year depends. And that's what's going to determine whether you're a higher tax bracket or a lower tax bracket. But come to real estate, there's ways where you can play around with the money and you can go and transfer it into a different asset. This is something that 1400 years ago Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was already teaching us. That if you want the barakah to stay and not be completely wasted, put it into another asset. So now he's going and telling his Shia to go and do all of this, but he's sitting in tatters and in complete poverty? Hasha, no, this is not the case. So what do we find? The first thing that I would like to bring your attention to is even if you don't want to have a nice, big, affluent statement on society where your house, your watch, your this, your that are completely shattering people's mindsets of what's possible to reach in terms of financial success, what you can do is quietly acquire assets that will be helpful to your fellow Shias. Why? Because Imam Rida alayhi salam, again we come back to the 8th Imam. What does he do? He says that one of the reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put so much barakah in real estate is because when it comes to your fellow brothers, when they're being kicked out of their houses by the tyrants of the time, you have property that you can now house your fellow brothers and sisters. That when times get tough, you are there to go and help your fellow. Something, brothers and sisters, that we find the asas, the roots of this are in the Quran. This is something that when we go and look at, for example, the reiteration in the Quran of the 10 Commandments. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? He basically, look, I'm not going to go into all of this. This is a whole entire lecture on its own. Maybe one day, inshallah, we'll get into this. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, basically that you need to be able to know who is the faqir in your society. How are you going to know that? He's going to walk around with a name tag. Hi, my name is Faqir. No, is he going to come with a hat and that hat is going to say, hi, my name is Faqir? No. You have to know the people in your community, such that when one loses a job, you have something lined up for him in your field. Or you have contacts that you can hook him up with or hook her up with. But if you don't know anybody in your community, then khalas, what are you going to do? So now when someone in your community has a need, has needs in their financial lifestyle, you as their brother can come and help them. If they're about to be kicked out, you know because you are up to date with what's happening with them. You care about what is happening in the society. Isn't it the same Rasulullah that we all follow that says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that he's not a Muslim unless he cares about the umur of the Muslimin and the ummah, that if one part of the Muslim body is hurting, then so should he. Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It says all of these things, but it doesn't enter our hearts, brothers and sisters, because we don't have this idea of Ahlul Bayt, that this is who our role models are. We should be aspiring towards them. Come with me now to something that Allam al-Majlisi Allahu maqama says, narrating from Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam to companions Abu Basir. What does he say in this hadith? He says, "O Abu Basir, wouldn't you like for me to read for you from the wasiyah, from the will of Fatima az-Zahra, salamullahi alayha?" He says, "Bala ya Mawla." He says, okay, so he goes and brings out a small box. You know, these kinds of small boxes that maybe you have some precious jewelry. This is a very khas box. This is a small box. From it, he takes out a paper. And I'm not going to go into all of it, but basically Fatima az-Zahra says, this is the will of Fatima, that whatever I have, all 7 of my ha'it. What is a ha'it, brothers and sisters? A ha'it is something that surrounds a property, but it's, because it's the ta, it's something that's more tough, meaning it's walls that surround a garden, meaning it's a walled garden. We find a similar word called al-ha'ir, with a ra. What's al-ha'ir? Some of you may have heard of Ha'ir al-Husayni. Someone, maybe even their last name is al-Ha'iri. What's this last name? What's this word mean? There's a popular story, our bahithin, our muhaqqiqin, they say that this is not exactly a true story, but the story is that when Al-Mutawakkil al-Abbasi, la'natullah alayhi, goes and sends water, he's trying to divert the Euphrates River so that it destroys the qabr of Abi Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam, the water became confused and it started to go around the grave. The muhaqqiqin say this is not the most authentic of stories. They say that there were many things that became confused around this place. Therefore, the people through the centuries, they started to call this place Al-Ha'ir, because people and other things, they started to get confused around this location. However, the water story is not perhaps the most muthabbat of stories. Regardless, we find this word ha'ir, therefore ha'it is also something that surrounds. So we find this in the wasiyah of Fatima az-Zahra, salamullahi alayha, that she has 7 of these walled gardens. Ya Jama'ah, this is not the gardens and the properties of Ali ibn Abi Talib. La, this is the properties of Fatima az-Zahra. She says, I will, for each of these 7 to be given to Ali ibn Abi Talib, and after him to be given to Hassan ibn Ali, and after him to be given to Hussein ibn Ali, and after him to be given to the eldest of the remaining sons from the sons of Hussein, meaning from the Imams. We even have the names from the same narration. We find that his names are Al-Awaf, Wal-Dalal, Wal-Barqa, Wal-Mabiyat, Wal-Husna, Wal-Safiya, Wama li Ibrahim. Now this is a whole entire lecture. Ali Ibrahim, who is Ibrahim? This is not our topic tonight. These 7 walled gardens, these are all being gifted to now who? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. See, there's a beautiful hadith. And when I heard this, I had a hard time believing that we would have such a clear-cut hadith that the ma'soomeen want us to become financially stable, financially independent. You see, for those who have this idea that, oh, I'm going to go and become religious, that I'm going to go and have this amazing spiritual lifestyle where I'm going to become rahban, I'm going to become a monk. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the Quran when it comes to this asceticism, monkery? It says, we never told the Christians and the Jews to go and become these ascetics, these monks, to go and completely leave dunya behind. We never told them to do that. We told them moderation. This is what we told them. And so what does the hadith say? It says, نِعْمَ الْعَوْنَ عَلَى التَّقْوَى اللَّهِ الْغِنَى. And brothers and sisters, this isn't just some hadith that's found lying on the side of the street or something like from our pockets. No. This, I've noted down the references for this for anybody who would like to find this on Al-Kafi, volume 5, page 71. من لا يحضره الفقيه, volume 3, page 156. تحف العقول, volume 1, page 49. Al-Wafi, volume 17, page 37. And Wasa'il al-Shi'a in 2 different places in volume 17, page number 29 and page number 76. Now, who's the ma'soom? He goes, who says all of this? That says, what an excellent helper. Al-aun is what? That after you've done everything you can, now there comes divine madad. Reinforcements. Al-isti'ana. What an excellent helper after you've done everything you can for reaching taqwa of Allah is what? Al-ghina. Wealth. Having financial stability. Being well off. Not having to go to someone and begging from them. Not being in need where you have to go and spend your 9 to 5 working your whole entire youth and your adolescence and your middle ages away until finally now you have enough for retirement, and now for maybe 10, 20 years you're going to go and spend that in ziyarat and this and that. No. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam is the one who comes and says to us, La, ni'mal aun ala taqwa Allah al-ghina. This is Rasulullah, and I listed for you the sources. So now, I want you to come to that example that we, because there's going to be people who are going to say, no, brother, all of these things that you mentioned from Imam Ali alayhi salam, where he has only one thobe, he's eating the hard piece of bread, all of these kinds of things. So how do we go and explain all of this? You come to modern day, and I ask you this. I ask all of you who are here in front of me. Who are the richest people, at least that Forbes will publish for us? Obviously, there are people who pay Forbes so that they're not on the list. There are families who are worth 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 times more than the people on this list. But the list stays silent. On the list, who are the most richest people in the world? Go ahead, name some people. Bismillah. You guys don't keep up with who's the richest people in America? Elon Musk. Elon Musk is one. Who's number 2? Jeff Bezos. Who's number 3? Warren Buffett. Bill Gates. One more. Brothers, inshallah, all of us. I heard someone say Mark Zuckerberg, right? You look at the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, you look at the likes of Elon Musk, you look at the likes of Jeff Bezos, even you look at the likes of Bill Gates. And what do they wear day to day? Look at Mark Zuckerberg. What does he wear? He wears the same hoodie. You look at Elon Musk. Fine, forget about sometimes his extra choices where he's wearing fur coats and whatnot. Otherwise, what's he usually wearing? He's wearing a t-shirt. He's wearing normal clothes. If you were to see him in this jama'ah, would anybody be able to go and tell, this is the richest guy in the world? No. What does this remind you of? When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam is sitting with the Sahaba and someone comes from Rome, someone comes from Habasha, someone comes from a different land, and they come and they have to ask. Ya Jama'ah, what does it mean that they have to go and ask? It means that they can't tell Which one is the Rasul? Who's Rasulullah? He's not sitting up here on a high chair. Like, why are we sitting on the high chair? This is just so that we can, have visibility, so that people can. Otherwise, Rasulullah, he doesn't need, but because of Ghadir, that's why he has all of these saddles, so he can go and stand higher, and people can see him for visibility. Otherwise, there's no, difference between me and you. I can sit over here on the lower step, I can sit on the floor, and we can have the same majlis. Rasulullah could be sitting over there, he could be sitting over there, he could be sitting over here, he could be sitting over here. The point is that his status does not dictate, oh, I have to sit at the head of the table. I have to sit here or there. He blends in. But do we say about these people, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, all of these kinds of people, do we say, oh, they only have one type of clothes, fuqara, miskin, bichara, la ilaha illallah. We should go and help them. No. Bil'akas, we go and say, wow, I want to be at such a level where even if people see me, they're confused. How does this person, he just dresses like us, but how does he have so much generosity? How much does he have so much to give away? And this is what, brothers and sisters, we have this saying even over here in the West, that money talks, but wealth whispers. Ahlul Bayt, they're not going to be out here flaunting and showing off like Qarun, coming out into the streets with all of his, amazing robes and all of his amazing keys, and the people who are, carrying his keys. They're not going to be like Qarun. And this is why, brothers and sisters, when you go and look at the history books, you find that there's something called, for example, Surar Musa ibn Ja'far. What is this? Surar Musa ibn Ja'far, it's such that Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim alayhi salatu wasalam has so much wealth that anybody who comes up to him who needs, he'll go and give them. Where does he find this? He has this because of all of the investments of previous imams of Ahlul Bayt. And he wants this to be such a known thing that the Shi'as are generous and their imam is so generous. Right? Even though he lives in the time of who? Ja'far al-Barmakki. He lives at the time of Harun al-Rashid. These people who are spending their money on what? Musicians, women, on gold and silver, on swimming pools filled with alcohol. La, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far and Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, what do they want to go and spend their money on? On building up Islam, on making sure that the people are taken care of. But now ask yourself in your mind, where do they get all of this money from? Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, tonight we're going to give so many examples of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. But before that, I want you to give the loudest of your salawat. Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam, one time, and you guys have probably come across these riwayat, you've heard it yourself, that someone comes and he's hungry. And he sees someone who's digging on the road to Kufa. Sees that he has a small little bit of lunch with him. He has like maybe some laban and a piece of bread. And he's saying, Ya Rajul, you're working in this heat and this is all you have for lunch? He says, it's okay. This is enough for me. He says, do you know where I can find some food? He says, come share with me. I'll share my lunch with you. Afterwards, this man, he's a little bit embarrassed that he doesn't have enough. He says, go to this house in Kufa, and I want you to tell them that I'm hungry. Do you have any food for me? Who is this man? Hassan ibn Ali al-Mujtaba. When he goes, he eats as much as he wants. Then into his pockets, he goes and starts putting food. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam stops him. He says, Ya Rajul, is your family hungry? If it is, don't worry. We can give you food. We can get the food to them. We'll pack it and get it to them. Are you hungry and you're not feeling comfortable that you don't want to have so much food right now and then you want to eat a little bit later? Feel free. La takalluf. Don't have any kind of bad feeling that, oh, somebody's watching you. No. Feel free. But why are you taking this food? He says, Ya Hassan, there's a man who's digging and I shared the lunch with him and he didn't have much. I want to take this food to him. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, now he starts tearing up. He says, do you know who that man is? He says, no. He says, that man is my father, Ali ibn Abi Talib. He says, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Khalifa? He says, yes, the Khalifa. He says, but why? He says, he wants to live at the base common denominator where the people are at. This is something, brothers and sisters, that even at the time of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, people didn't understand. One time someone comes up to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam and he complains to him, Imam, you have 17 shirts? 17 shirts. If this person saw some of our wardrobes, I don't know what he would say. He's coming to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, 17 shirts? You don't have any shame, Ya ibn Rasulullah? He says, why? Why not? He says, look at me, look at how I go. He says, so what are you trying to prove over here? He says, your grandfather is Ali ibn Abi Talib and I'm the one who's dressing like this. He says, Ya Rajul, Ali ibn Abi Talib was the Khalifa of the Muslimin. He had to show this. He had to go and live the way how the people at his time lived. The people who had the least amount of money. Otherwise, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he wasn't hurting for money. He wasn't poor. But even if this is not good for you, then look, underneath my outer garment, I have coarse garments. I have rough garments underneath. Just to, quiet you. But we do have this. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, we hear this, where he has this huge bustan, he has this huge ma'idah of food. Where did this come from? How did he get this? And this is within Ali ibn Abi Talib. We remember Ali ibn Abi Talib's faqr and his faqa, but we forget completely about his son, has so much that once, brothers and sisters, and here I'd like to compare Imam al-Hasan, what an amazing he's known as Kareem Ahlul Bayt. Kareem Ahlul Bayt, يعني شنو? What does it mean? We have another Imam, his name is Imam al-Jawad. What's the difference between Jawad and Kareem? Jawad in the Arabic language means when someone asks, you don't turn him away and you enrich him. Kareem means that whether you ask or don't ask, you still give. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, he's known as Kareem Ahlul Bayt. Now, does this mean that the other Imams, they weren't Kareem? No. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, he's known as Kadhim al-Ghayb, the one who restrains his anger. Imam al-Rida alayhi salam is known as Ahlul Bayt. What, they're not knowledgeable? No, these are mawaqir. These are moments in each of the Imams' lives where they got to showcase one of these attributes. So what do we find from Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam? Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, I want to compare him right now to Prophet Sulaiman. Without taking away from Prophet Sulaiman, but this is something that even the other Imams of Ahlul Bayt, they never did. This is something khassatan li Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. What did he do? Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam used to have a carpet. Right? He used to have control over the winds and he would go on his carpet. On this carpet, he'll go and distribute, money, he'll go and distribute rizq, he'll go and distribute to the people of, Palestine and all of the lands that he owns. But when he comes back to his castle, you'll find this a couple of times, even in the story of Dawood, where he wants his privacy in his castle. He says, okay, when I go and lock the door, I don't want anybody to come and bother me. This is time between just me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Come now to Kareem Ahlul Bayt and see what he has to say. He opens up his doors and he sees his whole courtyard filled with poor people, people who are here to ask for needs. What does he come and say? He says, oh people, come into my house. Anything that you see, take it. Anything that you see, take it. Meaning even your turban, even your haba, even your sword, even this and that. Now fine, he has probably in another place, these what if, right? These things that he's inherited from the prophets and from Imam Ali alayhi salam, Dhul Faqar, that's in a different property perhaps, right? But whatever is in this house, come take. All of my money, all of my food. Don't think that, I need this for my family, for this, that. No, it's okay. Whatever you need, take it. It's okay. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam Brothers and sisters, pay attention over here. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's have another second louder salawat in honor of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Twice in his life, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam gave away everything he had. 3 times in his life, he completely divided everything in half. He said half is for the fuqara, half is for يعني ما في سبيل الله, for whatever is needed for سبيل الله. طيب, so how do you have Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam giving everything away? How do you have, for example, when we come to Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, every single year he has a number of people who he'll go and find. And he'll go and say, go, take this money, go to Hajj. And I've funded not only you, and by the way, Hajj, you think that today it's expensive? It was expensive back in the day as well. Go to Hajj. Not only that, I'm going to provide all of the necessary things to feed your horses and your camels. Like, 1 horse, 1 camel, how much? You're going to be traveling for months from wherever you came from. You're now just in Medina to go and do ziyarah of Rasulullah. That's why you found Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. You're going to Mecca. But from Medina to Mecca, how long is it going to take you to walk? Probably a couple of maybe days, maybe a week. And you're going to go and take care of not just a caravan of horses, caravans of horses and camels. And you do this every single year. Like, where are you getting all of this money from? Some of you may have read a mu'jiza, for example, where Imam Ali alayhi salam, Ammar ibn Yasir comes up to him. Brothers and sisters, these mu'jiza, they happen 2, 3, 4 times when it's necessary, because the Imam doesn't have his, one of his slaves isn't there, or one of his servants isn't there to go and give the generosity, right? He might be traveling, for example. Ammar comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. Brothers and sisters, why are we telling you all of these things? So that you don't lose hope. That when you ask from the Ahlul Bayt, they have to give you. That when you raise your hands in dua and you say to Allah Ta'ala, Ya Allah, bijah kareem Ahlul Bayt, for the sake of kareem Ahlul Bayt, a'tini, give me. Know that this kareem Ahlul Bayt, He can give you, and Allah will give you for the love of kareem Ahlul Bayt. Why for the love of kareem Ahlul Bayt? Because of incidents like this in their lives. These stories are here to go and increase our love towards the Ahlul Bayt. These stories are here so that we have more of a reliance on the Ahlul Bayt, so that we don't forget them in our times of need, so that we remember the kinds of treasures that we have in Muhammad and Al Muhammad. So he sees these people, he goes and sends them to Hajj. He sees, brothers and sisters, one time, a slave who is sitting with a dog. He has a piece of bread. He gives 1 piece to the dog. He eats another piece. He gives 1 piece to the dog. He breaks off another piece. He feeds himself. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam approaches the man. He says, I'd like to know what you're doing. He says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I had this piece of bread, but I didn't think of myself as good enough that I just have the whole piece of bread for myself. I wanted to share. And I saw this poor dog. And he was hungry. And so I thought, Yallah, I have lunch and it's going to be enough such that I can eat. Even this dog can also eat. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam is so impressed. He says, who's your owner? He says, that person over there, he owns this garden. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam says, come with me. Comes to the person who owns the garden. Says to the person, I'd like to buy your garden from you, and I'd like to buy this slave from you. Person says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, okay. Accepts the price. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam turns now to this slave. He says, I've freed you. That's number 1. But number 2, I want to make sure that you're well off. This garden that I just purposed, I have no need for it. This is now your garden. I want you to go and become a businessman and use the funds that are generated from this garden to go and further do more good works like what I saw you doing. Brothers and sisters, this definitely deserves a loud salawat. We find time and time and time again. For example, Imam Zain al-Abidin, how many of you heard of Waqi'atul Harra? Yes, where Imam Zain al-Abidin, he gives refuge to 400 families, giving refuge and sustenance and supplying them to 400 families. That's not simple, that's not easy. I challenge you to take one family, not your own family, one other family with you to Costco and say, whatever you want, it's on me, it's on my credit card. 400 families? And you're doing this for how long? Among these families, brothers and sisters, is who? Marwan ibn al-Hakam, one of the Khulafa. Marwan ibn al-Hakam comes and says to Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, that look, we're in need, we need help. So what does Imam Zain al-Abidin says? It's okay, come with me. He says, but my wife, what's my wife's name? If you're Marwan ibn al-Hakam, what's his wife's name? Aisha bint Uthman. Uthman who? Uthman ibn al-Affan. This Aisha, she says, look, I'm going to have a very hard time staying in someone else's house and all of Ahl Medina know me. So it's okay, I have a place, I have a property outside, on the outskirts of Medina. Those of you who have been to Umrah, those of you who have been to Medina, maybe you've seen, and on the Atraf Ziyarah, you've been to the land of Yambu'. What's this land of Yambu'? Who can come and tell me? Yambu'. Anybody? Yambu', brothers and sisters, is one of the places where Imam Ali alayhi salam himself started to go and plant trees. You find when they went and asked Imam Ali alayhi salam, what were you doing for 24 years in these 24 years where others were ruling and they took your rights? What were you doing? He says, this is the words now of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, أحفر الآبار وأزرع الأشجار وأقرأ القرآن. I was digging wells, which in that time was a huge investment, right? That's a huge return on investment as well. وَأَزْرَعُ الْأَشْجَارِ, and I was planting trees. Trees are also another huge money-making thing back then. وَأَقْرَأُ الْقُرْآنِ. These were the three things, brothers and sisters, that Imam Ali alayhi salam busied himself with during those times. One time someone sees Imam Ali alayhi salam and he's got a huge sack. He says, where are you going, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen? He says, inshallah, to go and plant 100,000 trees. These trees, they're going to take time to go and to grow. But they're happening throughout this staggered period of 24 years. Who is one of the recipients of these, of the yields and the money that comes from these gardens? Some of them are ready and they're grown by the time of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. All of them are ready and grown by the time Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam is now the Imam of the time. Hatta, so that when 400 families in Waqi'atul Harra are in destitute, straits, they're in desperate need. What do we find? Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam says, come, I will give all of these people refuge and sustenance. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. What did we say also? Fatima az-Zahra has 7 gardens. We named them. This goes to Imam Ali alayhi salam when she passes away. Ali ibn Abi Talib has his own gardens, and these also go to Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. When Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, we looked at this in previous times when I came here to Indianapolis, the Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, he went with Muawiyah and made a treaty. One of the points of the treaty was, I'm going to keep Baytul Mal Yazdajird to myself. Baytul Mal Yazdajird, this is no small joke. Muawiyah thinks, oh, okay, fine. I have many other Baytul Amwal. One is okay. What's that going to hurt? No, this one happened to be a strategically placed one. And whenever Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because remember, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is Imam for 10 years before Karbala happens. Who's the Khalifa at that time? Muawiyah. Yazid comes, and then within a couple of months, all of these things happen and Karbala happens. Ala kull hal, this Bayt al-Mal is one of the things that helped Ahlul Bayt during those times. While some of those trees were not giving fruit at all times. These are how Ahlul Bayt used to, for example, not only sustain their needs, but the needs of others. To give you one example, one of the gardens, one of the orchards that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam inherits from Imam Ali alayhi salam, حط بالك. I want you to go and give me your full attention. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Says that each and every single year would yield, listen closely, 100,000 golden dinars. Dinar is which one? It's the golden one. Dirham is which one? The silver one. Okay? Now I want you to think to yourselves, how much is this 100,000? We'll come to the calculation very shortly. I want to give you a couple more examples, but keep this in your mind that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, just one of these gardens. How many does he inherit from Fatima al-Zahra? 7. How many more does he inherit from Imam Ali alayhi salam? It's not really mentioned in the riwayat that I was able to find, but a few dozen at least. He has many of these gardens. Imam Ali alayhi salam, 24 years is a long time. They had a lot of money. Otherwise, how do you explain? They give away their money, then the next year they do it again. They fund this person for Hajj, they fund caravans for Hajj, they fund all of their necessities, and then they do it again, and they do it again, they do it again. This, brothers and sisters, to those who are savvy with investments, you know that there's something called passive income. You can go and give everything that you have this month. Next month, when the rent comes again, you'll have everything all over again. All of your investments, they come and give you dividends, or they come and give you rent, or they give you all of these different types of names. Next month, everything is going to come all over again. Yes? That's why Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, he comes to his son, Muhammad ibn Ja'far. This Muhammad ibn Ja'far was not one of the greatest sons. Imam Rida alayhi salam has to, kind of teach him a lesson when he's Imam. This Muhammad ibn Ja'far, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam comes to him and asks him, how much money do we have with us? He says, we have 40 dinar. He says, okay, give it all. We'll come back to this narration in a couple of nights. Give it all fi sabilillah. Give it to the fuqara, give it to the needy, give it all. He says, but we won't have anything in the house after that. He says, watch what happens, watch. So Muhammad, he listens to his father, goes and gives it all. A couple of weeks later, how much does Imam Sadiq alayhi salam get? 4,000 golden dinars. He says, we traded with Allah. We gave 40, he gave back 4,000. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is generous. So don't feel that when you go and give charity that this is going to be a nuqsan for you. Nah, bil'akis. It's the exact opposite. You will be inviting rizq into your life. Then, for example, brothers and sisters, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, multiple imams. You guys know this. When we read the Shahada of Imam Zain al-Abidin, what does Imam al-Baqir see on his shoulders? He sees not only the whips, not only the collar of Sham, but he also sees those marks of wheat and wealth, and he was giving it out, distributing it in the night. Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he's doing this in his final years in Kufa, what do we see? The orphans, they come to the house of Ali alayhi salam and they realize, oh, Ali was the one who was giving us mal and food all of this time. And remember, they come with bowls of milk. How, after multiple imams, are each able to go and do this night after night after night, where people are able to rely on these hooded figures who they don't know until finally we realize, oh, it was Ja'far ibn Muhammad, it was Ali ibn Hussein, it was Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'een. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he leaves from Medina to Mecca, and then from Mecca to Kufa, but then he stopped on his way to Kufa, he goes to Karbala. When he leaves Medina, what do the riwayat say? They say that he left with, listen to this, 250 camels. 250 camels, already that's very, very expensive, just to buy the camels. Now I want you to think also in terms of how do you feed these on this long journey. Imam Hussein alayhi salam leaves in Rajab. Rajab is which month? Rajab is the 7th month, right? Ramadan is the 9th month. Dhul Hijjah is the 12th. Muharram, when he dies, when he's killed, is how many months away, brothers and sisters? Quickly, from Rajab till Muharram? 6 months. 6 months of how much money does Imam Hussein alayhi salam leave with? But the point is that he's taught his kids to always live in a state where they're not going to complain. This is something that we can learn from brothers and sisters, whether we're rich, whether we're poor. Our kids, maybe they're used to Pop-Tarts, corn flakes. They're used to all of this kind of stuff. They're used to going to Costco and whatever. I was seeing, I was watching a video today, and it seems that sometimes kids have this mentality that you buy them a toy once, now whatever store you go into, oh, I'm walking out of here with something. Hatta even you go into AutoZone, oh, I'm walking out of here with something, right? This is windshield wiper blades, Baba. You're 2 years old. No, I want something. Our kids have become spoiled, right? And I'm going to be looking at our kids. I'll give some things for our kids to look at our parents back to as well, inshallah, right? In future upcoming nights. I'll plan for this so that our kids, they don't come and complain to me, Maulana, what are you doing? We come here to listen to your lectures, not get the death stare from our parents. But we see that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam also leaves with 250 camels. This is not something tabi'i, this is not normal. Imam Zain al-Abidin, we saw he supported 400 families come to Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. He's supporting at one time 500 families. Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam, when the governor of Medina is expelling Shi'as from Medina, Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam has houses that nobody knows who owns them. But the khas, the Shia, they know that Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam owns them. This is what we would call today hiding your assets within structures like LLCs and trusts and whatever, so that nobody in the government, nobody from people who have anti-Shia, whatever kind of cultural venom against you, nobody can find out what properties and what assets you have. Hatta even the lawyers, they can't even find out. This is something that we find from 1400 years ago. Our teachers already told us, but we don't learn. And I want to give you this one last example from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he has a whole entire university, brothers and sisters, in Baghdad. How do you do this without money? How do you start a whole entire university and you don't have money? How? Yani you are the principal, you are the founder of this university. What, everybody is going to come from Rome, from Yemen, from Africa? Everybody's coming and they're all coming voluntarily? Even right now in the houses, where do they learn this from? That there's a ratib, that there's some kind of a stipend when you go to Hawza, so that there is some kind of a, weekly or a monthly, something for you to keep your muamalat, everything keeps on going. Where did they learn this from? People, they go and complain, oh, our khums, what is it going for? One of the places that it's going to is for the betterment and for the continuation of the Hawza and the studies in the Hawza. Where does this happen from? From the Hawza of Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, this comes from a companion by the name of Adhafir. Adhafir says, my father was given by Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salam 1700 golden dinar. And he was told, Ya Aba Adhafir, go with this 1700. This is what my father Imam Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir has given me. I want you to take it. I want you to trade with it. I have all of this to go and worry about. I have my family, I have the house, I have the government, I have all of these different kinds of things. I don't have time to go into the markets and do trade. I want you to go and take all of this and trade on my behalf. He comes back to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He brings him 1800. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam smiles. And he says, take this as capital and go and invest it again. I have no need for it, but I want you to do it again. Su'al, question. Why does Imam Sadiq alayhi salam smile like this? Why does he smile like this? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he has need for money. He's greedy. Think about it right now. I want you to think about it. Think up some answers. Why would Imam Sadiq alayhi salam smile that there's a good return on investment? And I'll give you, look, you might be thinking 100 dinars. What's this? I mean, this is not really much. S&P 500, whatever, if it only goes up $100, that's not really much to, celebrate over. No. I want you to think about this. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Another second, louder salawat. How much is a golden dinar? How many dirhams go into a dinar? Remember, I wanted you to remind yourselves of how much one of those gardens yields on a yearly basis for Imam al-Hussein that he inherited from Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. How many dirhams are within 1 dinar? 12 silver dirhams. For each dinar, there are 12 silver dirhams. Now, what is the base component, the unit that makes up a silver dirham? This is called a danqa, the plural would be dawaniq. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dawaniq make up 1 dirham. And how many dirhams make up a dinar? 12. So now I want you to multiply this 1700 to 1800. This is a difference of 100 golden dinars, right? And before I go to that, just so that many of us have been to ziyarah to Iraq. We know that there's a dinar dirham system over there. Maybe we've gone to Bahrain, we've gone to these other Khaliji countries where there's a dinar dirham system, and we might think to ourselves, oh, this is exactly what the Ahlul Bayt worked with. No. This is a completely different currency. 1 danqa, right? We've said that there are 6 within a dirham. 1 danqa would be given as a wage for a worker who works in your field from Fajr until Maghrib. You go and give this person his day's wage, that is a danqa. So meaning, if he works 6 days a week for you, he has 1 day off, what have you now given him? You've given him 1 dirham. So now come to me and now come and multiply for me. What's that mahar of Fatima al-Zahra that Imam Ali alayhi salam gives her? 480 dirhams. Multiply it by 6. That's how much. And wait, you're telling me that each and every single danqa is how much you give to a person who's working for you for a whole entire day. How much would you go and give hourly today if you wanted someone to do landscaping for you, to come and cut your grass and go and plant some flowers? I think probably minimum wage is $15 an hour, right? So now come into today's and put $15 an hour equals 1 danqa. 15 times 6 times 480. I think you get to somewhere around, I think you have a calculator with you, 43,000, something like that. $43,000, that's how much yes. The dirham and the dinar is no joke. So when Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is getting 100,000, and other riwayat, the same exact garden, says that sometimes this same garden would give him alf, meaning what? 6 zeros, 1 million dinars every single year. Now we understand why Muawiyah would go and write to Imam al-Hussein, name your price, just give me this 1 garden. Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, no, this is not for sale. This is something that Ali ibn Abi Talib, my father. So Imam Ja'far Sadiq, coming back to the question, why is he smiling? Smiling so much that his back molars are showing. Why is this? Let me give you a story. Because Imam Sadiq alayhi salam smiles like this often. There's a story where there's a Syrian, a Shami boy, and he comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, young man. He says that there's a popular tradition in Sham that whatever science people ask you, you have an answer. You know the answer to it. I've come to debate you. Meaning you're not just like other ulama where you know fiqh, usul al-fiqh, tafsir al-Quran, etc., and then that's it. You come to you and ask chemistry and you don't know him. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, does he have a student for chemistry or no? Yes. His name is what? Jabir ibn Hayyan. This Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is challenged to a debate. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, what do you want to debate me about? So this is important. Some of us, we like to go into debates about anything. No, set your parameters. In each and every single subject, there's micro subjects. Be sure to stay on that subject. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam asks this Shami, what do you want to debate me about? He says, I want to debate you about the Quran. What about the Quran? About the lugha of the Quran. So he says, Ya Hamran ibn A'yun. Debate him. He says, I came all the way from Sham to debate you, not Hamran. He says, if you can best Hamran, you've bested me. Ooh. This is a very vital point. Do any of our maraja come and say, debate my student, and if you can beat him, I'm not a marja anymore? No. What does this mean? Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam has what? This much itminan on his student that this person has so much ilm, he's not going to lose. I've trained him so well, he's so well versed in my sciences that he's not going to lose. Hamran beats him, then he says, okay, now I want to debate you on Arabic. He says, Aban ibn Taghlib, go debate him. Aban beats him. He says, I want to now debate you on fiqh. He says, Zurara, go debate him. Zurara beats him. He says, now I want to go and debate you about aqa'id. He says, Mu'min al-Taq, go and debate him. Mu'min al-Taq beats him. He says, I want to debate you about Tawheed. He says, Hisham ibn Salim, go and debate him. Hisham ibn Salim beats him. He says, now I want to debate you about Imama. He says, go, Hisham ibn Hakam, go and debate him. He beats him. Each and every single time Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, how did you find it, Ya Shami? He says, wow, Allah, mashallah. Each one of these has so much knowledge. Afterwards, after Hisham beats him about Imama, now he's ready to convert. But as he's about to go back to Sham, what's he going to say? He smiles again, Imam Sadiq. Why does he smile? Again, that same question. Shall I tell you? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam comes and smiles for this reason. That I want him, he came knowing that Imam Sadiq knows everything. I want him to go back saying, not only Ja'far al-Sadiq knows everything, but each and every one of his students is a Ja'far al-Sadiq by themselves. And when this person, Aba Dha'far, he comes and he makes a successful trade again, he wants his followers to become tujjar, he wants them to become successful tradespeople. Such that when people come and they have the funds, fine, you don't want a nice car, you don't want this and that in your own lifestyle, go and start a center. There's already a center in your place. Go and donate generously. Go and make sure that there's programs that people come to. You have these kinds of places. Other states, brothers and sisters, they don't have a Zainabia. They don't have centers like an Islamic learning center or an Islamic institute. They don't have these kinds of things. We over here, we have our own nakhra. I have one, but I'm going to sit from my home and I'm going to watch. Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, you know what also makes him smile? He says these kinds of majalis where Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is being remembered. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, to conclude, where does he learn all of this from? He learns this from Khadija. Khadija also had a huge business. We don't go and criticize Khadija. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't criticize Khadija. Jibreel says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you, Rasulullah, to give fadak to Fatima as a thank you for what her mother, Khadija, gave. So it's not a bad thing to go and become well off, to become self-sufficient, to have investments, to live a decent lifestyle. Even these rich people, you go and look into some of their lives, they're living with a decent house, a decent car. They're not flashy. But brothers and sisters, when this same Khadija dies, she's given all of her wealth away to the point that she doesn't even have a kafan. Rasulullah now has to go and take off his aba and he wraps his wife in this aba. And he's crying that, Ya Rab, I don't have even enough. In these final few years, Khadija gave everything. Such that Khadija used to eat the weeds of the Shi'b of Abu Talib. So that the children of Banu Hashim, they could eat the few pieces of bread that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib could go and take and he could trade. Because nobody wanted to trade. Imam Ali alayhi salam was strong, so they were scared of Imam Ali. They would eventually sell him something. Even at this young age, Khadija dies like this. Comes Jibreel and he says, Ya Rasulullah, I have 5 kafans. Says, as for the first one, because Rasulullah asked him, but we're 6. Who's this? Who's left out? He says, the first one right now is for your wife Khadija. He says, the second one, Ya Rasulullah, is for you when you die, because you're going to be the next one who leaves the Ahlul Bayt. He says, the third one is going to be for your daughter Fatima Zahra, because she's going to be the one who leaves after you. Says, after Fatima is going to be Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullah salam alayhi. Says, after Ali, how many is this so far? Khadija is 1, Rasulullah is 2, Fatima is 3. Imam Ali alayhi salam is 4. The 5th one says is for Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam when he dies, that this kafan is here for him. Says, but Jibreel, there's another one as well. There's Hussein alayhi salam. Where is his kafan? He says, Ya Rasulullah, this Hussein will die in such a way that his own blood will become his kafan. He will die without a kafan. And if we were to give him a kafan, Ya Rasulullah, the enemies would be so mean that they would even take this kafan. If it were an earthly kafan, it's okay for them to steal it. But this is a heavenly kafan, and these filthy people from Sham, they don't deserve to have such a kafan in their hands. But let me tell you, brothers and sisters, these shuhada on the plains of Karbala, final thing, and then iltimas dua. And I'll narrate this in a soft voice so that you can imagine this with your hearts before you hear it with your ears. Come to the 11th night of Ashur, of Muharram, on that Sham-e-Ghariban, when the enemies come with water to the camp and the tents of the women and the children after they've already set everything on fire. And the heat is even more, so now they're even more thirsty. I told you that the Ahlul Bayt, they would sometimes train their children so that they would never complain. Have you ever heard in all of your years where you're coming to the majalis of Aba Abdullah, where one of even the small children came to the enemies, came to Umar bin Sa'ad and said, I'm hungry, feed me. I'm thirsty, quench my thirst. Never. They were patient. You go and say, well, what about Imam Hussein? No, brothers and sisters, this is for Itmam al-Hujjah so that he can go and establish the proof on them. Otherwise, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, even in the most thirsty times, look at Abu Fadl Abbas. Does he ever ask them, give me water? Imam Salih alayhi salam says, the heart of my uncle Abbas was burning like charcoal. He says, the historical accounts come and tell us that when this girl Sukaina gets water, she says, I want to give this water to my father Hussein. I ask you, brothers and sisters, how does she know of all of these headless bodies in Karbala? Which one is her father? The riwayat come and tell us she knows because she has the habit every single night of going to sleep on her father's chest, and she can recognize the chest. When Zainab comes and she sees that the head count is one short, she says, where is Sukaina? One of the women say, I saw her go towards the Maidan of Karbala. She sees her crying on the chest of the now headless Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and she's trying to offer, Baba, I can't bear to drink the water until you've been quenched. Baba, now there's water. They're giving us water. I can give you water now. Zainab comes and says, Sukaina, this father of yours has been given a cup from Rasulullah. You can go and have your water and not have any guilt. Ala la'natullahi ala al-qawm al-zalimin. Wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun wal 'aqibatu lil muttaqin. Ma'tama Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.